Good evening, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I'm your host, Dan Sullivan. And for our top stories, Speaker of Parliament G.Zandanshatar held a meeting with US Senator Dan Sullivan. Mongolia's wheat harvest may fully cover domestic demand. Mongolia expects to export 1.2 million tons of copper ore and 36.7 million tons of coal in 2022. And for other news, stay tuned. The Speaker of Parliament, G.Zandanshatar, paid a working visit to the United States. During the visit, he held several meetings with U.S. officials, including the chairman of the International Republican Institute, Senator Dan Sullivan. The senator is actively promoting the Mongolia Third Neighbor Trade Act that enables trade cooperation between Mongolia and the U.S.
The bill aims for duty-free entry of textile items and products made of fibers containing cashmere and therefore would support the Mongolian economy by creating jobs, diversifying exports, and would contribute to expanding trade and economic cooperation between Mongolia and the United States. Senator Sullivan agreed that Mongolian and U.S. trade cooperation will play an important role in diversifying Mongolia's economy. Furthermore, the two sides exchanged views on initiatives of expanding trade and economic cooperation. The bill had previously been reintroduced to the U.S. House of Representatives on April 22nd of this year. In addition, Speaker G.Zandanshatar met with U.S. House Democracy Partnership Chairman David Price and discussed the promotion of democracy in Mongolia and supporting the development of effective, independent, and responsive legislative institutions.
The Ministry of Finance expects to export 1.21 million tons of copper ore and 36.7 million tons of coal in 2022, which is twice as much as last year.
As for gold, like last year, it's planned to transfer about 20 tons of gold to the Bank of Mongolia. According to the Ministry of Finance, the attention was drawn to the export of coal. This is due to the fact that Mongolia was unable to use the main export ports to their full capacity. Therefore, it's planned to increase coal exports to 2019 levels. Officials say the plan is to maximize the potential of coal exports since the Transport Tribunal was established in Kashon-Sukhat border port and was commissioned last week.
We aim to reach the maximal level we reached back in 2019 with 36 million tons. It is necessary to strive for this as a reality. Although we haven't managed to export as much coal as we had planned this year, our projected export earnings for this year are still looking relatively good, given the high amount of copper ore exported and the improved prices for that. In other words, we are missing out on a year that could have given us more opportunities if we could have taken full advantage of our export potential.
Prices for gold, copper, coal, and iron ore have risen steadily this year, stimulating an export-oriented economy, according to the National Statistical Office. However, the finance minister said that when drawing up the state budget for next year, he didn't factor in a rise in prices.
Assuming the mining supercycle has started, it usually lasts from 2 to 5 years. In 2 years, we have the opportunity to continue price increases until June 2022. If the internal pandemic situation is not good, we will risk exporting only 20 million tons this year. The good news is that the railway will be operational by the end of 2022. I don't think this will affect exports by the end of this year either.
The most recent mining supercycle occurred in 2010 to 2011 when demand from the industrial sector of our southern neighbor increased greatly. During that time, Mongolia's economy has grown. This revival is unique in that our country is moving forward in terms of human resources and technology. Therefore, economists recommend to attract investments in the exploration sector, improve logistics, and put the railway into operation without any further delay.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
Director of the National Agency of Meteorology and Environmental Monitoring of Mongolia Ichtuvshin, and Dr. Sarasi Kitmonton, Director General of Bureau of Royal Rainmaking and Agricultural Aviation, signed an agreement on developing a program for technical cooperation in weather modification. The main goal of the program is to work together to reduce desertification, develop sustainable agriculture, fight and prevent forest and steppe fires, and implement a cloud seeding project. The project will be an extension of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand's initiative to utilize rainwater harvesting technology. A ceremony held for the signing of the agreement was attended by representatives from the Thai International Cooperation Agency, Princess Maha Chakrasrindorn's project office, and the Embassy of Mongolia in the Kingdom of Thailand.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. The Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry reports that about 50% of vegetables and almost 20% of wheat have been harvested nationwide, with this year's harvest at the same level as last year.
A total of 660,000 hectares were cultivated this year. Grains were planted on 420.2 thousand hectares, 389.4 thousand hectares with wheat. Potatoes were planted on 19.8 thousand hectares, 9.9 thousand hectares were cultivated with vegetables, 100.4 thousand hectares with oil plants, 100,000 hectares with fodder, and 4.7 thousand with berries and fruit. More than 10,000 students, soldiers, and law enforcement officers are participating in this year's harvest due to a shortage of workers. Recently, light snow has hit most parts of Mongolia. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, the snow is melting in the southwestern part of Silong Province and in the northwestern part of Tuv Province. So far, there have been no reports of harvest problems in agricultural areas. This year's harvest is expected to fully cover Mongolia's domestic demand for wheat. Wheat is usually harvested by October 20th, but this year's harvesting is expected to be complete by November 1st.
The Ministry of Health and the National Center for Communicable Diseases provided the latest updates on COVID-19 status in Mongolia.
In the past 24 hours, 2,515 new cases were confirmed and 6,616 have recovered. Unfortunately, 16 patients, 5 women and 10 men died of COVID-19 complications. Out of the new cases, 1,204 were confirmed in Ulaanbaatar, 949 were confirmed in the rural provinces. At hospitals nationwide, 20,325 COVID-19 patients are being treated. Out of them, 11,137 show mild symptoms of illness and 390 are in critical condition. Additionally, 64,019 patients are being treated at home under supervision from first-level family hospitals. Health officials advise people not to invite people over their place nor participate in any kind of public events and keep taking precautionary measures thoroughly.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We will see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.